All right. So we're here today with a listener question. And I'm going to start with reading the question and then we can dive into it. And so the question is, I have some birth trauma, which I'm mining through, but also I have a 2-year-old toddler who I'm extremely close with. I'm having some pre-birth grief about how to deal with loving my new baby and also having enough time for my little man at the same time. What are some of your best resources for this type of situation?
I love that question.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one.
And it comes up so frequently, especially in the postpartum period, sometimes in the pre-birth, yeah, pregnancy, but definitely in the postpartum period. I hear it come up. Have you heard it as well?
Yeah, and I think even for people who don't have a second child, but or considering it, it's something like that I even thought about in my mind. It would be so hard to divide all my attention right now
Mhm.
at this phase. Do you want to start with your
Especially
response or do
toddler.
you want me to start with mine?
Yes to both. No, I'm just kidding. One of the best pieces of advice or like things I've heard, obviously, I don't have a second. We have a blended family, so I can relate in some levels. But really, the best thing I heard was that you just somehow find more love in your life and it just opens up in this way that you never expect. And that's what I've really heard from mothers. I think also what a lot of mothers experience or parents experience, even not necessarily just mothers, but is this idea that they're giving less attention to this child that always had it. And now I have to take care of your sibling because they're younger and they need it, quite frankly, right? That's really the bottom line of it. And I think that it's just a painful experience and an experience that just has to be accepted that this is the way that it's going to be. And it doesn't mean that we love our child less or differently. It's just that you love both of them now, and now their time it has to be split.
The first thing that I wanted to reflect back is it's okay to feel grief, right? The fact that you have awareness that you're grieving, that you won't have all your attention for the one child. There is also the fact of grieving the sweetness of the family, whatever your family number is before you bring another baby into that, that'll never be the same again. I think the awareness that you have that emotion and then just honoring it, like finding space to grieve. And we're both really big fans of rituals, potentially having a little ritual for this transition and allowing that grief to be a part of the ritual. We've said this, I think, in other things, but if you have like an emotion, you're trying to shove it down, eventually it's just going to pop back up. I heard this metaphor recently that I thought was really great, like a blow up ball that you're trying to push down under the water. It's like the more you push it, there, like it just has this inertia to want to pop back up. If we allow that processing of the grief earlier on, like it's great that you have the awareness and that you allow the processing of that grief earlier on, the more ease will come once the baby is there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that the more ease will come because I think there is truth in that. As you progress on, it will be easier. It's not going to disappear, dissipate, but it
Mm-hmm.
will be easier. Like I said, I don't have a second child, but I did notice when we blended families, I actually had a hard time because I recognized a few times I have not paid attention really to my kid at all. And it's just been in the midst of taking care of all the kids collectively and it's very different, of course, but a recognition that, like, yeah, this is the way it's going to be. There's going to just be less time spent with my kiddo when we're all collectively together as a family because it's just the way it is. There's younger kids that need more of my attention and help at the time, and I can't necessarily tend to just my son anymore because it's not just us.
That leads to my next point that I wanted to highlight with this question is that it's easy to get caught in the trap of we need to be the only one or we need to do it all, especially as the moms out there. It's a trap, basically. The more that we can accept the feeling that we have and then also realize you can't be everything for everyone. You know, this is kind
Hmm.
of like actually a bigger thing, not just for your children, but for other people in your life. You can't be everything for everyone. And really, what's the most important is honoring and taking care of yourself. So, again, recognizing this pre birth, I think, is really great. There was mention also of recognizing there's some trauma that they're working through. And the more you're tending to yourself, the more you can give and be present for others and honoring when you need support. And this is another perfect example of not pre-planning, because there's not way too much you can plan, but pre-preparing for what are ways we can add in support. Can I ask a family member to show up twice a week so I know I have dedicated time with my son, or there's extra hands to hold the baby between feedings and whatever it is, and I know I'll be there for bedtimes or whatever. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. No, yeah.
I'll tell you.
But the preparing mentally and asking and calling on others, feeling okay with that. Because I think sometimes with grief, there's actually other emotions attached. Sometimes what I see is people have that grief, which is real. That for sure is a real thing. And there's also this expectation, like they feel like there's an expectation that they should be able to be there for everybody. And that's just not always possible. And there's nothing limiting the amount of love that is being extended or created or generated because you're not the one that's there all the time. So those were two things that came to mind as well.
Yeah. The other thing too is that we think that this time that we give the firstborn or the second or whatever before the new baby comes has to be this kind of like grand thing. And I know in our mind, we don't necessarily think we got to take them to Disneyland or something. Those little sweet 10 to 15-minute connections a day, that's so easy to connect with your kid and make them feel like, oh, it's not just about the baby, it's about me too. It could be small stuff like after the morning feed, the baby's sleeping, bring your kiddo in and read a book or just cuddle or just connect with them. And I think that we think that it's got to be these longer moments, but really like 10, 15 minutes, just even once a day can be a lot for that little kid. The resource I would say is try to find little moments in the day to really connect and be present with your kiddo.
Yeah, that was another tip I had to, first of all, coming back to what we are always emphasizing in elimination communication, our kids often understand things a lot more than we give them credit for. So even with a little toddler, talk about, I feel sad because the other person in the family, or maybe so-and-so will have to do more bedtime stories, or I won't be able to do as many bedtime stories with you, but it doesn't mean I don't love you, or whatever it is. I love you just as much. I think talking about the feelings and acknowledging your feelings, even with really, really young kids, is a great thing. They may not be able to articulate everything, but they're listening and they see that. And it's a great model for their children and how to handle uncomfortable emotions and what we do, and the fact that we talk about them with each other and we honor them and we recognize the love through the hard and uncomfortable emotions that are there. So it's a really good opportunity there as well.
It's actually reminds me of a story a client was telling me. It's actually going through a similar problem. This was her third baby, but still having that guilt with the other two kids, right? Especially the oldest. And she was telling me, she was sitting there, she's clearly upset about not getting time. And she's like, I want you to put the baby down. And you laugh because obviously sometimes the baby can't be put down, but in this case it couldn't. And so the mom just gently said, I'd love to do that and spend time with you, but I just can't right now. The baby needs me and needs my attention. And I thought it was such a great way to actually allow the kid to communicate what they wanted and to see that their parent was like, hey, I would love to get that to you too. And also I need to take care of the baby because they need me. The kid wasn't happy about it, but it didn't spiral her more out of control or more whiny. You know what I mean? It just allowed her that space to express her feelings and for them to be acknowledged. And I think if that comes up with the little kids, is such a great way. What would you like? And allow them to express it, right? Even if it sometimes hurts us, got to put down the baby, or I don't want a sibling. But knowing that it comes from just their actual desire of what they want, and that's really connection with you.
And when you mentioned to finding those little times, this feels so cliche, but it can be overwhelming with a new baby. It can be easy to forget to even just say words or recognition of like connection time through words. And that can be done with a baby in arms. And again, little kids are going to want the cuddles and they're going to want to be in there. But sometimes something as simple as setting a timer that goes off every hour or something, and just realizing I'm just going to take a minute to recognize and connect with my child for 2 minutes. As you said, those little things do get subconsciously soaked up and they add up.
Yeah. Going back to what you're saying too, is like that communication, even if they don't fully understand, just really expressing to them, I think is so valuable. And acknowledging, like you said too, that it's okay to feel guilty, grief, all those things. Like it's going to happen. And I think it's always just going to be there a little bit, right, for a while until things feel more normal. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, it's a big change. And that's what we're grieving partly too, is that change and the dynamic that we have, because we know that that relationship and that dynamic's going to shift a little bit. It's not going to be the same. And that's sad.
And finding connection, I think, with others who have gone through that experience. Sometimes there are moms groups that are specifically focused on second or third or whatnot child, or even just like looking at your friends and seeing who do I really admire. Would you mind chatting about this with me? Or you can talk to a professional. But sometimes I think it's actually a sweeter, and it's nice to talk to somebody who's actually been there.
Yeah.
And not to say that therapists aren't those people, because some of them might have been there too. But talking to somebody that you already have a connection with and just asking, how did you deal with this? It can be helpful as well.
I think also pre-birth, it's hard to imagine how you could love somebody that doesn't really like fully exist in our reality in a way, right? In a way, conceptual, it's real, but it's not really in our physical reality in a way that we can touch it and hold it and interact with it in a very dynamic way. Sure, you can poke on the belly and stuff, but it's just different, right? And so I think it's also challenging to think, how could we love something, another being, so much as we've already loved this one? And the truth is, it's just hard to conceptualize that when it's just not in reality yet. And I
Yeah.
think once that baby's born, it's going to make more sense. And then you'll still, of course, grieve the change. I think that's the thing, the change in the relationship. I think if we can change our wording around it, it's not a loss of time, it's a change in our relationship with our other kids.
And also, I love what you said at the beginning. There's not like you're taking a certain amount of love and you're dividing it into two. Like, love will continue to grow. Your family will continue to grow over the years, even if you're not having more kids after that. And that love, it's a seed that's just going to continue to flourish and grow stronger and produce more over time. And keeping that in mind too can be helpful sometimes when the hard moments are there. This is a hard moment right now, and honoring that for yourself and remembering that love is infinite. And in the future, it's going to be amazing when your toddler's not a toddler, basically, and everyone has each other.
Right, right. And I'm sure you've seen a ton of families too. I don't ever recall walking into a family that's had a next, whatever the number that next is, and being like, oh, this child is not getting the amount of love that they used to get. But just like it doesn't happen. And it's also incredible to witness that yeah, there's so much love, that this mother loved their child the same before and even after the birth too. And so yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that gives some tips or ideas. And
Perspective.
every parent of multiples I ask this question to, they're like, you just do it. Just like every other part of birth and parenting, you surrender a little bit to it and allow it to be a part of the process and the transformation, and what's there for you and your child and your family can be really beautiful.
It's be beautiful. It
See,
will.
and it can be really torturous. So
Yes.
see both and both
At the same time. It can be
Yes.
both at the same time. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's okay to acknowledge too, for sure. I love that you spoke that out, because I think that's the key in a lot of these types of things too, even in birth, is it's both, right? It's both that I'm grieving this, but also really happy to welcome this new child and
expand our family.
yes.
But thank you for reaching out and submitting this question. And if you, listener that are listening, have a question, you can email us. And you can also, we'll put it all in the show notes, but you can also, we have a link to a voicemail that is quite easy. You just click on that link and you can leave us a voicemail with a question. And all of this can also be found on
Assist.site. Yeah.
Assist.site.
There we go.
You can check it out there, all the different ways to reach us and sign up to be a part of our community, all the things. So until next time.
Until next time.